And so it really is more efficient than alcohol in many different categories. I mean, there's still a time and a place, for, alcohol, and it's like, people can, but what we normally find is that anywhere where you have kava, especially the really potent stuff, there's all different levels of potency and strains, but people tend to, the more they drink kava, they tend to start to lose their taste for regular alcohol use. So they might still drink like maybe once in a week, or they might still drink, but they usually, like more times than not, statistically, people will start to make like kava as their go-to social beverage.
I've seen that with stem cell therapy, and they've actually done research on animals, on alcoholic rats, and showing stem cell treatment can reduce their alcohol-seeking behavior or relapse behavior. And their hypothesis is that they are reducing the inflammation in the brain, which is driving the addictive behavior. So that could be part of it.
I think that it probably is part of it. I think that, like any other plant medicine, the thing about harnessing the intelligence of nature, which you're doing with both plant medicine and with stem cells, is that we're not like creating these synthetic, isolated, man-made, single kind of dumb compounds, right? Meaning like these little single floating compounds that we're just influencing one little system in the body, and then it leads to all these other systems not knowing what's going on because we're kind of like hacking it, and it just creates confusion in the coding. Like if you hack a computer too much, it confuses the whole thing and hoses it up. You get a temporary effect, but at the cost of the system downstream. So you can use drugs temporarily if you need to do something acutely, but it becomes problematic chronically. But like with stem cells, with plant medicine, the intelligence is in them, right? So they already are part of the base intelligence that is at the base of the body anyways, right? So like, by just using that, it's like you're harnessing a type of medicine that's not contradicting or undermining the intelligence of the body. It's just helping to amplify it, right? So then it just helps to revert back to kind of a state of being optimized and a balance, right? So it's by doing that, I think a lot of these things, I mean, definitely stem cells and kava has all of these mechanisms that work simultaneously, reducing neural inflammation, upregulating and modulating, certain chemicals in the brain that just take away the cravings, because the cravings come from a state of desperation. There's something biologically wrong or emotionally wrong, right? Meaning you're bankrupt and you're trying to run towards pleasure and away from pain. And that's created by some sort of accumulated dysregulation that's both emotional and physical. You're trying to escape one state and get to another, right? In addiction, right? And so things that optimize your chemistry help to bring that state back into optimized focus to where you feel good already, right? You're not trying to escape as much. And then kava gives you a little bit more of in high doses of a euphoric state, but not that's imbalanced, right? It's more of just like it feels like it feels like you at your natural best. It's just not like an altered state where you like are a different person. You say things you wouldn't say, or you're engaging in all this primitive behavior like people do when they get really drunk or whatever. Like conversation usually gets more interesting, more authentic. It's just good so whenever I got into this, so I got into it obviously on the medicinal level. Once I tried it and got those effects, we started building the base for what became True Kava, which was initially meant to be an educational and advocacy campaign for integrating kava into modern culture, right? So that's what True Kava is at its base. And then we knew that there were some barriers because the traditional kava brew, the one that actually gives the real effects, it looks and tastes like mud, right? So in order to integrate it into, there's this barrier of the taste and self-stability. So, I spent, several years optimizing and kind of, developing a bioavailable form that didn't contradict or undermine the extraction process in any way. And that's very difficult to do, to keep those effects intact. And you know the difference whenever you try it. But so there was those two things, obviously, and then trying to build trying to figure out which part of the market that we needed to, integrate into first. And we decided that we didn't want to. We could have gone heavily into the clinical side first, which we kind of started to in the beginning, but we are focusing on building out the lifestyle portion to popularize the concept as much as possible, because that's the way it's going to be fully embraced sort of by everybody. And then we have medicinal forms that we can go full medical with that have a higher level of potency. So there's kind of something in it across the board for everybody, for just someone who would drink it like they drink coffee, right? Having, something to use that creates an atmosphere that's not toxic, that is very even family oriented, where you can just use at the end of your day or during, even at work, or, like almost anywhere. Kava is one of those things that, like, just like people use coffee, and perhaps even more efficient, because it does really more things. It just has so much potential, because like anywhere where you see it in the islands, it is their prime commodity that they use for everything. And it affects the way people think. It affects the way people show up in the world, and it affects the way they communicate and connect with one another. So like I said, anywhere where you see Kava, you see much, much better, statistical markings of mental health, right? And of, connection